Hey everybody, welcome to Drive-Thru Review 602. Today we're going to take a look at Pit Crew. This is a new game from Jeff Engelstein and Stronghold Games that's coming out. And this game, very simply, is about being the pit crew at a NASCAR style race. Now this is a, well, I don't want to say it's sort of a real-time game because it is a real-time game, but I was a little bit trepidatious about this one because it's got kind of a real-time dice aspect to it, which I've liked and then I've also really disliked in games. And it's also got a real-time team cooperative card play. So what you're doing, the gist of the game is each team of up to 3 players, so you can play up to 9 players, 3 teams of 3. That's the max you could do. You could do 2-player if you want. And you're gonna be playing cards to this sort of mocked up car, fixing its tires, refueling it, and so on. Now that's all done in real time and cooperatively within your team. And then the first team to kind of say go is gonna be able to roll dice and move around the track. Now, if you don't like real-time games, you might like this. So let me tell you how it works, and then I'll tell you more about what I think of it in the review part. Okay, here is everything that you get in the game. Now each team is going to get one of these cards here. And so you can see you've got a 27 and a 29. Now you're always going to start in kind of the basic game with just the 27 in the first round, and then in the second and third round you're going to flip it over to the 29 side. And you can see that kind of activates the engine to be fixed there, but in the first round you don't have to worry about the engine. You're just worried in this case about the 4 tires and then the fuel, which is represented by this number on the top, and you're going to play cards there in the back. So what each player gets is one of these. They get one of their tokens on the board representing their car, and then you've got a little marker here to represent how many laps you've gone through. Now each team is also going to get a deck here of cards. You can see the other decks there. And then you also get these little sets of cards here, which I'll talk about. These are little called cap cards. And then you've also got a deck here of these special ability cards. So what's going to happen is you're going to say 1, 2, 3, go, and then you're going to start playing cards. But each team is going to have a certain number of cards in a player's hand depending on the number of players on that team. So if you wanted, you could have 1 player against a team of 2 players. And you can, even though you got more players, it's a little bit easier with a team that has less players, because in this case, let's say I was by myself, I would get 6 cards all in my hand, whereas a team of 2 players will just get 3 cards in each player's hand. So there's 2 heads at work, but the information is kind of split up a little bit between the players. So what's going to happen when you start playing cards in the first round? Remember, you're just trying to fix the tires and then refuel this. Well, the way that this works is you need to start playing cards in real time. And you can discuss and do whatever you want. And there's a couple of different ways that you might actually play the cards and what you're going for here. So what I'm doing here as I play these cards is I'm looking at a couple of different things. Now, as I'm looking at the tires here, you can see you've got these numbers that start 8, 2, 4, 6. And then what you're going to play is cards that are up or down 1 from the current number. So currently it's 4, then I played a 3. So now I'd be looking for 2 or another 4. So I'd put a 4 there, and then let's say I had this other 3, and I put that. And then once you have 4 cards in that configuration there, then you're going to go ahead and you can just slap this on there like that, and that just lets everybody know that you're done with that, because in this case I've got 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, right? So you're trying to do that for all of the tires and get all 4 kind of refit. Now what you're trying to do with the fuel here is you're trying to get all of these numbers here just to add up to 27. And then once you get that done, you can go and throw that little gas can on there to show that. Now at some point, one of the teams is going to finish this, or maybe they won't even finish it, and they're going to pick up the die and they're going to start rolling. And so you're going to roll the die, and then once you see what it is, you're going to move your car that many spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you're going to roll again, 1, 2, 3, and then this is while the other teams are still working. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can move up your lap and so on. So you keep rolling, 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 and then the second team, if you're playing a 3-player game, will grab the other die and they'll start rolling. So you have 2 teams rolling, and then the third team finally is going to yell stop. So the other teams have gone ahead and moved their car up a certain number of spaces, and then the last team calls stop and there's no more rolling. Now in a 2-player game, there's just, or 2-team game I should say, there is only 1 die, so I start rolling on my team, and then the second team says stop, and then that's it. So once that team says stop, Then you're going to evaluate in order of the teams that picked up the die. So the first team to pick up the die, you're going to look at their cards. And then you're going to see if they played everything correctly. So maybe we didn't actually get this one done. So we got these 3 tires done, but this one we didn't get our 4th card. But we still went and said go and started rolling the die, even though we knew we hadn't actually completed it yet. Or maybe we were off by 1 here in terms of the fuel. Like so. So maybe we only had 26 instead of 27 there. So you can do that. And theoretically, if you wanted to, you could just pick up the die and start rolling it, even though you would be a damn fool to do that. So, and then in the second round, when you do the engine, you've got to just play a pair here, and that's all that is. But once we start evaluating what you actually did, depending on what you screwed up, you're going to allot the other teams the ability to move up free spaces on the track. So if, let's say we were at 27 and we were off by 1, like I showed 26, each team would get to move 1 space plus or minus how much we were above or below 27. So you're going to give teams free spaces. Now here, if you're missing cards from the different tires, so I should say missing legal cards, because it's perfectly viable for a player to put down a card as another player puts it down or something like that. Once a card is played, you can't pick it back up and say, whoops, I screwed up. So for each kind of incorrect or missing card on all these tires, then you're going to get a certain number of penalty points as well. So if you're missing cards entirely, the other teams are going to get 2 spots. If your up or down isn't really correct, so like you did 3, 5, something, then they will get 1 penalty point, but you can get back on track and so on once you're playing cards. Now the fuel tank is going to be, like I said, the difference, and then the engine is going to be 2 points in terms of the pair here. So if you've got missing cards, you've got like 1 card, or for some reason you didn't put a pair down, you have 2 different cards, you would get 2 points. And so you're going to go walk through all the teams, and then you're going to access those penalty points, and those penalty points again are the other teams getting a chance to move forward. Now you can get a bonus here, so let's give you an example of that. So as you play cards, you'll see here there are different colors. So there's black numbers and then white numbers. Now for each sort of station that you put all the same color, so all black or all white, then you're going to get a bonus movement for your own team as well. Oh, and I should say, I've never seen this happen, but if you have 8 or more penalty points, it's like you just do it so awfully, then you're just crashing, you're out of the race. So I've never seen anybody get close to that, but that is out there, hanging out there. So after the first round, like I said, you're going to flip this over, and the last 2 rounds you'll play with this. And then you also do a little bit of draft of these little special ability cards here. So the teams that are further back will get first choice of these cards. And you can see they just give you cool special abilities. Like this is Sabotage. It says other crews receive 1 penalty point for each 9 or 10 in their fuel tank. So you can get that and play that. And that makes it more difficult to actually get to the total here on the fuel tank, because you can't play the higher cards, and the higher cards often won't necessarily be useful down here and so on. This one is training, so you get a 3 that can be in either color. So again, you can put that kind of anywhere. This one, it says receive 1 penalty point for every 4 discards instead of 1. Oh, that reminds me, I almost forgot. The other thing you can do is you can discard a card instead of play it here. And the other thing I forgot is when let's say you had a hand of 3 cards, you're playing the 2-player on your team, so each team gets 3 cards. Then as you play cards, you need to draw back up. Well, you draw back up to your hand limit, whatever that is, 3 or 6, depending on the number of players. So one thing you can do is discard a card and then draw back up. But each of those discards is going to be a penalty point and move the other teams up a spot. Now you can do that any way you want. You can play 3 cards and then draw 3 cards, or play 1 and draw 1, because sometimes you have a whole bunch you want to play in a row. So you have a maximum of 3 cards that you can have in your hand, or 6, depending on how many players are on your team. But that's just the game. You just play quick 15 minutes of the game, and then you just do 3 rounds, and then that's it. Okay, so that is a Pit Crew, and if you can't tell, I really enjoy this game. I think if, like I said at the beginning, if you don't like a real-time game, I think you still like this one, because it's not so much that you're under a strict timer. The other team is kind of your timer, and you can even break that timer, because if you watch the rules part, as you're playing cards and trying to fix the different parts of the car, then you can say screw it and we can just go. and you can see how much you can get away with because you know you're running with maybe a handful of penalty points, and then you're kind of hoping the die is kind to you to kind of make up for that, and you're kind of hoping that the other team maybe burns a couple of cycles. And that's one interesting thing about it is you can kind of like put pressure on a team in a way to like kind of force them to maybe make mistakes if you go a little bit early, because you know they're going to go, oh gosh, they're going, can we get this last card in, can we get a, you know, sometimes you can get stuck like I'm going to put a bonus card out because if you remember, if you get all the same color you get a bonus movement, and that can kind of gum up the works. It's almost like it's like a temptation there to try to get those bonus points. So I almost feels like that's a wild goose chase that was put in there just to kind of get you to chase after it when maybe you shouldn't really bother with it, because you should really focus on, you know, getting really close to perfect on your car or perfect, and then, you know, getting the die and starting to roll. So that's really the kind of the interesting dynamic of it. It's not just like, you know, it's not just like a timer. It's just like, hey, okay, you have this 30 seconds or a minute and then that's it. There's a dynamic to it where, you know, again, you're kind of pushing and pulling with the other team, and that's kind of informing how what your decisions are. It's not just like we're rolling dice faster and faster and faster. Like, that's not the game. You know, the game isn't just do stuff fast. There's all these other layers to it in terms of the interaction and kind of calling somebody's bluff in a way. So that's super interesting. And the game only takes 10-15 minutes. So it's not like you're subjected to being pulverized by this kind of pressure. So that's good too, because this kind of game, like if it went any longer, it would not be as good. I mean, it could go a little bit longer and still be fun, but if it went too much longer, then it would just be kind of too much. Yeah, so this is a nice little addition here with the special ability cards. It gives you a little bit of a way to catch up. You know, I've seen a lot of stuff. I've seen a lot of close ones. I've played this probably 4 times now. No, more than that. 6 times. And then, so I've seen a lot of close races, you know, it was close the whole way, or maybe somebody pulls away right at the end and they just like lap you like 3 times and you're like, what happened? You know, it was super close until the last round, and just a lot of different variable endings and things like that. So that's super exciting. So yeah, and it's cool that it scales as well. When you can play 1 versus 2 and all that kind of stuff, and it seems to, even though there's 2 players on the team, I've found that having just kind of doing it yourself, that's kind of easier because you have a larger hand, and you know you don't have to worry about anybody kind of like, oh, do you have the, oh, is that black, is it white, oh, you lose all that stuff. But yeah, so it's interesting how that works. So I definitely recommend this one, Pit Crew. Definitely take a look at that. Thanks.